Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Ray Minjares, and I lead the Clean Air Program at the International Council on Clean Transportation. I'm going to be moderating today's webinar. The International Council on Clean Transportation is an international research organization that supports the development and implementation of best practices for vehicle emissions control to protect public health and to mitigate climate change. We're here today to discuss a new study that was published just recently in the journal Nature. This study came out on May 15th, titled The Impacts and Mitigation of Excess Diesel NOx Emissions in 11 Major Vehicle Markets. And it was led by the ICCT and Environmental Health Analytics in partnership with an international research team, who together were looking at what the impacts of real-world diesel NOx emissions are globally. The study quantified the global health and environmental impacts of these emissions, both today and in the future. The ICT has been interested in this question for many years, principally as a result of our work in Europe that has, through vehicle emissions testing and other analysis, identified a growing gap in the real world and laboratory-based emissions of diesel NOx. That's been growing year by year. This excess diesel NOx is a prime culprit for the chronic violation of ambient NO2 air quality standards in the UK, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and other countries. Many European cities today have called for outright bans on the future entry of all diesel cars, as with Paris, or put restrictions on the entry of older generation of higher emitting diesel cars, as in London and Stuttgart. But this is far more than just a European problem, and it's far more than just a diesel car problem. About 2/3 of all vehicles in the world today are designed to meet European vehicle emission standards. Therefore, our international work on diesel NOx is motivated to close the gap in excess emissions, both in Europe and in those countries that are following the European emission standards, to leapfrog to the best practices for vehicle emissions control. But since we've always known that heavy-duty trucks and buses emit higher volumes of diesel NOx, we've also been concerned about the potential for excess diesel NOx in those specific vehicle types. And so we've been interested in the global nature of this excess NOx problem for diesel cars, trucks, and buses. Today, I'm joined by a panel of speakers that include key contributors to this study. First, let me introduce each one briefly, and then we'll move on to our first speaker. Dr. Susan Annenberg is principal and co-founder of Environmental Health Analytics and was lead author of this study and managed the project team as a whole. She also contributed the health assessment to this study. Josh Miller is a researcher at the ICCT, was co-lead author and led the vehicle emissions factor development, emissions scenario development, and overall emissions inventory development. Dr. Davin Henze is associate professor at the University of Colorado at Boulder. He's also a co-author and participated in and led the global air quality and climate modeling aspects of this study. And Dr. Lisa Emberson, who's Center Director at the Stockholm Environment Institute in York, participated in and led the global crop impacts modeling assessment of this study and is also a study co-author. The study had a much larger number of team members who are not participating on today's webinar, but what we will do is I will introduce each speaker and with each speaker, you will have an opportunity to hear directly from them what their contribution was, how they conducted their particular piece of the study, and what the key findings were. With that, I will now move to introducing our first speaker, Dr. Susan Annenberg, who, as I mentioned, led this study and will discuss first why and how we did this study.